welcome back. Now, thanks to the internet, people everywhere are discovering different ways to make money, and they're doing that from home or they're doing that from a small office. So for sure, there's dozens, maybe even hundreds of part-time ventures going on, especially since the internet has become so popular. So today's episode is how to earn money in a part-time business. Now, most people I work with, I teach them to make money, and they do that as a part-time venture. So a lot of them like to call it a side hustle, but it's basically something they're not going to work 40 hours a week at, and it probably won't take you 40 hours in total to actually do one complete deal. But if it does, you're going to do it on a part-time basis. So I'm Ted Thomas, and for more than 30 years, I've been in the entrepreneurial business of tax liens and tax deeds. And what's that all about? It's nothing more than a subset of the traditional real estate business. So usually I'm working from a small office at home, and just because it's small doesn't mean that the revenue has to be small. In other words, there's going to be people that have a small office, but they're going to be able to generate a 6-figure, 7-figure, and sometimes even an 8-figure business from that small office at home. So your agenda is up to you. If you want to make a lot of money, you can do a lot of business from that small office, especially if you get involved in the business that I've been in. So this episode is answering your question, how to earn money in a part-time business. And I'll be right back. Okay, so let's get right into this. How to earn money in a part-time business. Well, in this episode, it's all about real business. So I'm not going to discuss a business that is small. I don't want to go into talking about businesses where you're going to be doing clothes alterations, or you're going to be cleaning houses, or you're going to be doing something that's making pennies on the dollar. So I realize that there's lots of people, they only want to work 1 or 2 days a week. This is going to take a little bit more than that, but this is a business where you can really make, in part-time dollars, you can make $25,000, $50,000, and even more. So I'm not going to talk about really small business. I am going to talk about making some real money and doing it in an untraditional way to do that. So I'm going to discuss on how to research and have a side hustle so that you can make $25,000 and up to $50,000 on one deal. That's one single transaction. And that's what this business is all about. And I'm going to give you the details as I go along. Now, YouTube is filled with how to do things online. So that's a great idea because it helps a lot of people. And there's a lot of blogs that will teach you how to do things. Okay. Now, thousands of people want to do a business, but they just want a very small business. This is a business that makes real money. So I'm not negative on YouTube, and I'm certainly not negative on writers and freelancers doing things. But a lot of those people are educators, and a lot of them are just writers. So if you're getting advice from them, understand if they're not doing it, they're just telling you about it. So that doesn't say that you can't go on YouTube and learn how to do things. It doesn't say that you can't do things by reading the blogs and so on. But my point is, if you really want to be in business, you probably want to get people that are in business giving you advice. So I say, find experienced people to help you out. Now, I've been in business for well over 30 years. Now, what does business require? Well, it requires that you plan it, requires that you have guidance from yourself on what you're going to do, but it also requires that sometimes you have to hire people, and the part you don't like, sometimes you have to fire them when they don't get the job done. So this can be a challenge, but business is something that you want to make sure that you're talking to people that have experience. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm talking about people that are in business, have stayed in business, that are giving you advice. Now, if you don't have experience at something, I'm going to tell you right now, whatever you do, hold on to that job. If you want to make real money, hold on to that job until you have something that people will pay you for. A lot of people quit and they hope everything's going to work for them. Boy, I'm going to tell you, you don't want to do that. So if you haven't noticed, everyone is willing to give you advice. Now, if it's your family giving advice, you don't have any choice. You have to listen, because otherwise everybody would be mad. All right, now, when your family's giving you advice, they're just worried about you getting hurt and going bankrupt or something like that. Okay, now, do they know anything? I don't know whether they do or not, but you still have to listen to them. Now, outsiders, they're going to give you advice too, but maybe they're your friends. Well, your friends, they just want you to stay the way you are. They don't want you to change. So they're going to kind of discourage you from being in business. All right, so who are you going to get business advice from? Find people that are experienced. In other words, if you want to do some business, you're going to have to produce a product and a service that's going to solve someone else's problem. When you start doing that, that's a little different than getting advice from your family and your friends. So you want to get advice from people that already know what to do. All right, your friends don't want you to change. Remember that. Your family just wants to take care of you. So what are you going to do? Well, you're going to listen to them because you don't have any choice, but I don't know that you're getting great business advice. And you should be very cautious on who you're taking advice from. All right, now, if you don't need any advice, that's because you're already a professional, or maybe you're a craftsman, or maybe you have some skills that you've done for many years. Maybe you're already an expert, so that's fine. So at that point, then maybe you want to quit that job. But if you don't have skills and you're not a journeyman level or a master level, then I'm going to tell you, hold on to your job until you can make money with your skills and your profession. If you can't do that, if you don't have a trade that you're already working at, you're going to have a whole bunch of challenges. So what's my point? Don't quit your job until you have significant money, enough money in that bank account to take care of you and your family. As soon as you don't have a job, your family is going to worry a lot. So you don't want to put them through that, and you don't want to put yourself through that. You want to make sure that you've already built up reserves. All right, so do you have a profession? Do you have a skill? Do you have a trade? I don't know that whether you do or not. But if you don't, be sure you keep that job. Now, if your job will just transfer to doing things yourself, so maybe you're a carpenter work for private families, or maybe you do it to help someone build a house, or maybe you do it for a contractor. Well, if you're skilled at that and you're a journeyman or a master, well, that's a whole different story. Then you have problem-solving skills, and that's important. You don't want to do anything that you're just hoping it's going to work. You want to do things that are going to help other people. So what do entrepreneurs do? Number one, they help people. How do they do that? Because they either create a problem-solving product or they create a problem-solving service, and they help people. Now, people will pay you for that. Otherwise, people are not going to pay you. If you want to be successful, you have to be a problem solver. People will pay you if you'll solve their problem. So I'm going to forewarn you right now, this isn't going to be easy, okay? You need to be able to solve other people's problems. Now, so how are you going to do all this? Well, you're going to have to start doing some research. All right, what kind of research are you going to have to do? I would start researching difficult jobs that you can learn, because the people don't want to do difficult jobs. So if you want to do something easy like babysitting, well, everybody in the world can do that. Now, that's the kind of job I don't talk about. Why? Because there's not enough money in it. But if you were going to supervise the building of a house, well, maybe you've already done 10 of those as a foreman for a big company. Well, then maybe you have a problem-solving skill, and you keep the plumbers going, the roofers going, the carpenters going, whatever. You're going to need a skill, and you're going to need something that's going to solve someone else's problem. So you're kind of getting the idea of what I'm talking about. So I'm convinced if you don't have a skill, then you better get one. If you're a person that just wants white-collar work, and you want to write blogs, and you want to write e-books, and you want to do things like that, are you learning how to do that? Well, you better start learning. So there's always going to be a demand for those things, but if what you're writing is not problem solving, it's not going to work out. All right, for women, it's a given that the men are always looking for virtual assistant, okay? People that are in business are always looking for virtual assistant. Sometimes it's part-time, sometimes it's full-time, but if you can do that, just go on Liens and you'll be a very, very busy person, that's for sure. Now, if you don't do a good job at it, you're not going to last. But if you do a good job, more and more people will find out about it and you'll get very busy. Earning money part-time is just a way of life. It's just a way of change. So there's many freelancers doing it all the time. There's many entrepreneurs doing it all the time. Now, I'm going to transition, and I'm going to show you the next 2 minutes. I'm just going to tell you about a business that I got involved with that makes good money, and it'll be available for the next 50 years. So 30 years ago, I investigated a subset of the traditional real estate business. Now, what's traditional real estate? That's, generally speaking, it's homes, it's residential buildable lots, it's small apartments, small farms, things like that. All right, but a lot of people employed in that, a lot of brokers, agents, title companies, attorneys. So a lot of people work in that business. But there's a part of it that's not so glamorous. So what's that? That's the non-traditional part where people don't pay their taxes. So I got involved in that 30 years ago, and it's a real simple business. It's this simple. You're going to be able to buy properties for 10, 20, 30 cents on the dollar, and then you can sell them for whatever you want. So if you can buy them low, then you can sell them high. All right, now how do they get in this situation? These subset of the traditional real estate are tax defaulted properties. So in all 3,000 counties, properties are tax defaulted. All of those counties are going to sell the property. They're going to start at very low bids. Why do they start low? Because they just want to get rid of the property. So those properties are going to have starting bids of 10 cents, 20 cents, 30 cents on the dollar. Now, if people don't pay the tax, that's not acceptable by the state. So the local county will transition and they will take over. And how are they going to take over? They're going to confiscate the property and they're going to sell it at auction. They're going to sell it to just get the money. Now, this is happening in all 50 states. So all 50 state legislatures will post a notice of default, and then they'll say, this property is going to get confiscated, and they'll ultimately sell it because the property owners defaulted on their taxes. All right, so I'm going to button it up by saying this. This is an easy business to do because you can look at the property ahead of time. You can decide you're going to pay pennies for it, and you can decide what you're going to sell it for before you ever get involved. Now, my name is Ted Thomas. If you do get involved in this business, what you need to be careful of is, number one, before you ever even think about an auction, make sure that you've been at the property and seen it, boots on the ground. Why? What if there's a hurricane? What if there was a fire? What if there's a windstorm? You want to make sure the property's there before you buy it. All right, secondly, you don't want to get involved in any property that you don't know what you're going to sell it for. The beauty of this business is you can buy it low and you can sell it for any price you want, but you should know what you're going to sell it for before you buy it. And finally, I have an auction calendar. It's a magic auction calendar, and you can get a free auction list, and that information on that is right below me.